Good evening. I've recently finished reading Mortal Friends by Stanton Hitchcock. This is partly a murder mystery, but mostly a story about high society life in Washington. The main character, Revan, owns an antique store, and she has connections, I guess, with a lot of people on the wealthier side of Washington, like senators, and like her best friend Violet is married to the head of the Potomac Bank, which is a really big deal in these parts. Like, she's really wealthy because of it, and the kind of person who gets invited to all these fancy parties and political meetings and like stuff like that. So I guess there's been a bit of a stir in the circles that they move in recently because there has been a series of women murdered close to where they live. Like, the most recent body was actually discovered in a park where Revan goes jogging herself. And her friend Violet is a huge, murder mystery fan. Like, she's the kind of person who reads up on all these serial killers and gets really into the psychology of it and is really excited about the fact that they might actually have a serial killer in town. And Revan herself ends up getting recruited by a police detective because he needs a window, I suppose, into Washington life. Like, he doesn't have their connections, and he wants to know more about everything that's actually happening behind the scenes at all these various social gatherings, since there is evidence that these murders may be connected, I guess, to the people that move through these social circles. So this story is, I guess I felt it was a more relaxing kind of mystery because it was less about the investigation, I guess, and more like if you built a murder mystery on gossip and like the relations that people have. Like, there's you look at a lot of the relationships between the different characters, a lot of the scandals that are going on. Like, essentially, Revan discovers that nobody is who she really thought they were. Like, there's a lot more happening that she didn't realize all around her with, like, everybody that she knows. Like, people wear masks all the time, and she's never been a good judge of character to begin with. Like, there's also some focus on her own difficulties with her love life or lack thereof, and like the people that, like the man that she's interested in, who may or may not be a little fishy himself. So it's really more about, I guess, all these different social relationships and the secrets that people have, especially people who are wealthy, well-connected, and involved in politics and charities. Oh, because one major thing that's been happening that highlights, I guess, the parties and stuff that's been going on is that there's a new major donor in town called Cynthia. Like, she is famously like a self-made woman with a lot of money, and she's been making a huge reputation for herself by donating enormous sums of money to many different places, but then also making really unreasonable demands. So, like I said, I think this was a pretty relaxing kind of read, so I did find it an interesting way to pass the time. Like, there was definitely a lot going on with everyone. I suppose the one thing for me that I found a little frustrating was just how naive Revan was, and it's something that other characters around her point out pretty frequently throughout the entire book. Like, she's extremely unobservant to the point where sometimes it just sort of makes me exasperated with the choices that she decides to make. You know, like, she can't believe this really nice seeming person might actually not be a good person deep down, or like there's just a lot of clues, I think, that are so obvious that show people aren't the way she thinks they are, but she doesn't pick up on them. And I think sometimes, especially when you could be in danger or you could be putting other people in danger, that can be a little bit frustrating. But overall, I think the story it wasn't the kind of story where that was a really big deal. So yeah, in general, I thought it was pretty interesting.